Voidmage Gamer is now partnered with Flipside Gaming, so you can use the promo code on their website, all caps, Voidmage, to get 10% off all orders $10 or more. It's a great way that you can support both Flipside Gaming and Voidmage Gamer's channel. And if you're a fan of some of the most recognizable works of art, from the likes of Monet, Van Gogh, check out the new Masterpiece Playmat collection Flipside Gaming is now selling. Brilliant looking mats. Absolutely wonderful. Check them out. Hello guys, welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech video. This is probably the first time that I'm actually going back to a deck list that I created in the past. As always, this was voted on by my patrons over on patreon.com. Go check it out if you want to support the channel. It's a great way to do that. This week they chose Queen Marchesa, which I believe this is the first time I've ever gone back and edited one of my deck lists on Tap Out. Queen Marchesa is a pretty cool commander option. She's one of the weird Mardu ones that doesn't really have too much to do with combat. I mean, with Kaalia, you have an attack trigger. With Zergo Helm Smasher, you have just a beat stick to just keep attacking with no real reason not to. You have Edgar Markov, which again deals with combat, getting you some more vampires to attack with. That deck is all about being aggressive with vampires. With Queen Marchesa, it's more about holding back and being more defensive. This deck is all about protecting the queen, which is coincidentally what I called it back about a year ago when I made it. Maybe even longer than that, I forget. So right off the bat, we're just going to go over her. She's 4 mana in Mardu colors for a 3/3 legendary human assassin with Death Touch and haste. When she enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. How the monarch works: at the end step, at the beginning of your end step, if you are the monarch, you get to draw a card, and whoever deals combat damage to you becomes the monarch. Once the monarchy's in play, it's pretty much going to stay in play until the game ends. That's kind of the cool thing about this. It's a very unique mechanic that you don't really see anywhere else outside of Conspiracy 2. And you think that would be a bad thing, offering your opponent some card draw, but Queen Marchesa does give you the benefit of playing the monarch-themed deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent is the monarch, you put a 1/1 black assassin creature token with Death Touch and haste onto the battlefield. So, gives you a reason to attack that same opponent that's the monarch. They steal the monarch from you, you want to take it back. A 1/1 with Death Touch and haste is a pretty easy way to deal combat damage to them. They're probably not going to want to block with their best creatures. Now, as far as newer additions to the deck, I have fooled around with it a little bit, not too much. To kind of go along with the theme of the Monarch, I decided to add in a couple creatures that weren't previously in the deck, like Custody Lich and Knights of the Black Rose. I just think the more flavorful that this deck could be, the better that it's going to end up being as a playing experience, because that's the whole point of playing with the Monarch mechanic. You could play with a super competitive Mardu deck that deals with combat, that is as aggressively as it could possibly be. To me, that's not fun. I want to fool around with a mechanic that's unique. Custody Lich is kind of like a fleshbag marauder for people that steal the monarch from you. People are going to want to draw some more cards, and Knights of the Black Rose kind of does the same thing, punishes whoever's going to steal the monarch from you by draining a little bit of life. Not super competitive cards, but again, it kind of adds to the flavor. And this is also in addition to other cards that we're going to be playing in here. Cards like Skyline, Despot, as well as Marchesa's Decree. These are both awesome cards. The Despot's going to get you some tokens, and Marchesa's Decree is one of those propaganda kind of cards. While it's nowhere near as good, making your opponents lose life whenever they attack you with a creature, which is pretty sweet. And also considering that all of the cards I just mentioned have Monarch ETB triggers, giving you the monarchy in addition to Queen Marchesa means that even if you do happen to lose it, playing any of these or Queen Marchesa means that you can become the monarch again. You don't just have to deal combat damage to the monarch in order to take it, you just have to play one of these cards. And part of this deck is being a little bit cruel, so a newer addition is Xantcha Sleeper Agent. You can give control of her to one of your opponents. She attacks each combat if able and can't attack its owner, so can't attack you or any of your planeswalkers. That's super important. We are going to be playing a little bit of a pillar fort strategy. We don't want any of our opponent's creatures to be too much of a threat to us, which is also why we're going to be playing Baird, Steward of Argive. This was not in the original deck. Dominaria was not out when I made that tech list. Very sweet inclusion. More of these tax effects that we have for our opponents attacking us, the better our deck is going to be. The more we're going to be able to stay the Monarch, more cards we're going to be able to draw off of that. Consistency is really the deal in this deck. And to add a little bit of control, we are going to be playing the new card Crush Contraband. Even along alongside Return to Dust, I think, again, more consistency is better. The more control that you end up playing with this deck, the less likely you're going to have to deal with threats. The less that your opponents are going to go unchecked. You can exile an artifact or an enchantment or both. So it's arguably better. It's not as situational as Return to Dust. So a lot of those cards are some of the new things that I put in here. Anything else I did to the deck was just minor tweaks. I think I took out both Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor, because I don't really want this deck to be super expensive, and also the only thing you would end up tutoring anyway is something like a board wipe, which you usually want to tutor up combo pieces. This isn't going to be that kind of deck. I did, however, focus on mana ramp by throwing in a Talisman of Indulgence. We aren't playing the best colors for mana ramp, so you got to focus on artifacts. The rest of the deck is pretty much, like I said before, Pillow Fort, and ways of disrupting our opponents, even if it's just slowing them down with something like an Authority of the Consuls, Blind Obedience, and Thalia Heretic Cathar. These make your opponent's stuff come into play tapped, slows them down, doesn't prevent them from getting to you, but it definitely delays them. In addition to Baird, Steward of Argive, we're also going to be playing Windborn Muse, as well as Archangel of Tithes. These both kind of do a similar thing, kind of Ghostly Prison on creatures. We're also going to be playing Ghostly Prison. We're also going to be playing No Mercy, as well as Sphere of Safety, all enchantments that are going to make it incredibly difficult for our opponents to attack us, and even if they do, there's going to be some consequences. One of my favorite creatures to throw alongside with Queen Marchesa, I love the flavor here, Teysa, Envoy of Ghosts. Any sort of Pillow Fort strategy, I would highly recommend her. Whenever creatures are going to deal combat damage to you, you get spirits. You also get to destroy that creature, so decent in a control Pillow Fort strategy. Don't really see too many decks playing her, but hey, I mean, this is a pretty unique style, so why not? As far as Planeswalkers go, really the two that I want to play in here are Kaya, Ghost Assassin, and Elspeth Sun's Champion. Kaya, because we're able to exile our Marchesa, have her come into play, then we're able to get the Monarch trigger again, and she's also pretty decent consistency Planeswalker that you really don't see too much of. She's really just meant to get you some card draw or force your opponents to lose some life, you gain some life. Pretty decent. And Elspeth is really just a token wall creator. She's also capable of board wiping all creatures power 4 or greater. Marchesa gets under that and usually gets rid of any big threats that are going to try to steal the Monarchy from us. And it doesn't really hurt that her ult is also a pretty decent win con. So all in all, that's pretty much the deck. Go check it out if you haven't already. I definitely think that she's one of the most interesting Mardu commanders out there. She definitely shattered the mold when she was released in Conspiracy 2. Pillow Fort is also a pretty fun strategy of mine. Any sort of Pillow Fort strategy when combined with Group Hug, when combined with Heavy Control, I think is a ton of fun, especially if you're the one doing it. Maybe not so much for your opponents. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.